Hello, my friends. Thanks for joining us once again here on Kardec Radio. You are watching Spiritism, a closer look. We do this program every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Luiz Lima here, broadcasting from Orlando today, Orlando, Florida. What we are going to do today is we're going to take a closer look at some questions that we received. We have been doing Q&A or questions and answers programs. And because we have received a great number of questions, we're going to do one more of these Q&A programs. This would be the third one. And these questions come to us through emails, comments on presentations, and just people who knows us. If you want to send us a question, I'm going to leave our email here so you can do that. And let's get to answer a few questions for today's or tonight's program. So the first question that was sent to us goes like this. I understand Spiritism follows the teachings of Jesus. If that's correct, what is the difference between the teachings of Jesus and those of Spiritism? So, first part says, I understand Spiritism follows the teachings of Jesus, and that is correct. So, the actual question is, once that being said, what is the difference between the teachings of Jesus and the teachings in Spiritism? To give you a response to this question, we're going to take a simple example. If we go back in time to the days of Moses, when he comes down with the Ten Commandments, because I think it's just easier to go take one example to explain the answer. So when he brings the Ten Commandments, one of them is don't kill. Now, imagine in that situation, in those days, if we can, right? The thing was a little bit barbarian in those days, very complicated. And if you were talking to somebody in those days, suddenly there's a discussion, the argument gets a little heated. It's not uncommon for people to just run their swords through somebody else's body and just kill them. That's it, just kill them. It's not uncommon in those days. It was not. And you would just go on with your life, and maybe somebody would do the same to you. So killing was a thing that belongs to normal life, believe it or not. So when Moses comes down and presents that particular don't kill law, this is a divine law. The Ten Commandments are divine laws. So when he comes down and has to present that to his people, the people complain because, for them, why should I not kill if I've been killing people and other people are killing somebody else? So why should I now stop killing? So in order to make this happen, in order to sustain and support that divine law, Ten Commandments, Moses has to impose on his people disciplinary laws. So he creates a set of 613 disciplinary laws. And those 613 are supposedly created to sustain and support the original Ten Commandments. So now we have 623 items, I would say, that became later known as the Moses Law or Mosaic Law. But actually only 10 of them are the Ten Commandments. So the disciplinary laws that Moses brought had a tone of imposition. You see, can you imagine Moses coming down with the tablet and the Ten Commandments and saying, people, let's sit around here and discuss this thing that I brought. What do you think about not killing? What do you think? It just wouldn't work. So we had to be, because of the level of advancement, moral and intellectual advancement, at the time, he had to kind of impose these things on the people. And so these Mosaic law had had an impact on the population at the time because they were kind of imposed on them. It was just necessary at the time. Now, time goes by, 12, 1300 years later, Jesus comes on board, and he is very clear. I did not come to destroy the law. Which one? The 613? No, the 10. The 10 commandments. He said, I'm not going to change those because these are divine laws. How can I change? But he could adapt or adjust the disciplinary laws because disciplinary laws will be adjusted with time, just like it is in today's society, anywhere in the world. So Jesus doesn't come with this, I would say, imposition method. He comes as a counselor. He will counsel people. For example, the case of the adulterous woman. He does not condemn. He doesn't say anything. He said, listen, if I were you, I wouldn't do this again. And that's it. He did not forbid. He did not argue. No, he was just great counselor. So now we have a second layer to the same situation. So coming back to the don't kill, the divine law is don't kill. A disciplinary law would be something like this: don't kill, but if you kill, you go to jail, for example. So if you kill, you go to jail is a disciplinary law trying to sustain the original moral value. Jesus would say something like this: if I were you, I would not kill, which is a different tone. There's no imposition anymore. He's a counselor. So we have two layers now. We have the first layer in the bottom, which is you cannot, and that's it. And you're going to be punished by our disciplinary law if you do this. Layer number two is counseling. If I were you, I wouldn't do it. And that's what Jesus brought. So the question is difference between Jesus' teachings and Spiritism. And then we have layer three, which is Spiritism. You see, if I tell you don't kill, or if I tell you don't do this, if you don't know why you're being approached that way, it's very unlikely that you're going to follow. A counselor will put a different tone. I wouldn't do this if I were you. Now, if you know why you shouldn't do, it's more likely that you will abide and follow that. That's Spiritism. That's layer number three. Explanation. Spiritism explains in details why Jesus was counseling people to do certain things or not do certain things. Again, if you know why, it's a whole different story. So here we have three layers. Layer number one with Moses is imposition. Layer number two is counseling. And layer number three is explanation. So going more to the point of the question, what is the difference between the teachings of Jesus and the teachings of Spiritism? The teachings themselves are not different. There's no contradiction. Jesus is telling us A and Spiritism is telling us B. No, the difference is in the depth of the explanation. Spiritism explains in details, everything that Jesus brought to us at the time that he was here. He will explain at length why things were proposed why Jesus proposed and counseled us to do certain things and not others. Spiritism explains that. So it's not a matter of, oh, there's a problem here, we need to reconcile Jesus and Spiritism. Not at all. Okay, so that would address our first question for our program today. We have a second question. How can we improve our moral standards if we live in a world of dishonesty, crime, violence, and so many other negative things? It's a great, valid question, of course. Most of us complain that we are in a world of trouble, bad things, and negative things. So if we are inserted into that context, how can we improve our moral standards? It has to do with choices. It's a choice. We are free to make choices. That's called free will. Free will is not touched. It's untouchable. We all have free will. I have free will. So the question mentions something like dishonesty, crime, violence. I can choose to be dishonest, but I can also choose to be honest. I can choose to be a violent person, but I can also choose not to. You see, the environment is not what's going to make me do it. The environment just creates an opportunity for me to make better choices. I'm not saying that's easy, not at all. So let me explain a little bit more. Let's just go back in time. So let's say that myself, for example, let's say that I was 10 incarnations ago. I was this very criminal guy, doing everything wrong, crime, killing people, stealing, robbing, all the bad things. So that's 10 lives ago. 9 lives ago, I said, I'm going to get a little better. And then 8 lives ago, better. So let's just say that on my last life, my last incarnation, I say to myself, I don't want to be dishonest anymore. I don't want to be, having to, be hiding all the time. I just want to live my life nicely. So I don't want to be dishonest anymore. That I say in my past life. Then I discarnate and I go to prepare my next life, which is this one here. So during that preparation, I make it really important that honesty is a goal for this life. So, with my mentors in planning my next life, which is this one, I make it very clear. Honesty is, my driving force for my next life. So there I go. Now, what happens? I incarnate, and I'm going to be living somewhere. It doesn't really matter where, but dishonesty is all around, more or less depending on the place and the circumstance. So here I am. I incarnate and I follow my original purpose. I'm a very honest person as a young kid and as a teen and so and so and so, as a young adult. And then there's a point in my life where I am left with a situation. And the situation is, I am, for example, in a room, in somebody's house, for example, or a party or something. In that room, I am alone. And on that desk, there's a pile of dollar bills. To make it more, to make the explanation a little bit better, don't think of the pile of bills. Let's say a pile of $100 bills. Don't think of the value in dollars if you add up all those $100 bills. Think of the height of the stacked dollar bills. So let's say, for example, somebody puts in there 200 $100 bills. That's a nice stack. That's considerable. And if I can look at this and I say, oh my God, there's a lot of money here. These are $100 bills. It's a high pile. If I take maybe 10 of these bills out of the top and I keep to myself, nobody's going to notice that the height is not so high anymore. The pile is not so high anymore. So there's a debate, there's a turmoil inside. Should I do it? Should I not? oh my God, if I do, nobody's going to notice. But if I take 10 $100 bills, that's $1,000. That's decent, considerable amount of money. Should I do, should I not? You see the turmoil that's going inside? Then I'm going to sweat and I'm going to look around. There's nobody looking at, what a great opportunity. Regardless of the outcome, if I take those bills or not, dishonesty is still possible because I'm facing it. I'm trying to fight it because of my purpose in this particular life. But it's still something possible. I'm looking at the pile of bills and I'm like, oh my God, should I do it? Should I not? You see, if I had transcended the duality, honesty, dishonesty, I would look at the pile of bills, and I would say to myself, oh my God, this is a lot of money here. Somebody forgot this money. The person who forgot this might be absolutely desperate. How can I find this person and tell them, the money is here, or simply return the money? So you see the difference. In the first case, I was thinking about myself. I want the bills for myself. I will make some profit out of it. It's me, it's I. On the second case, it's the other person. Somebody forgot this. Somebody might be desperate. Oh, this person should be looking for the money somewhere. You see, the focus changed completely. But it's still a choice. I can still choose to take the money or not. So it's a matter of spiritual maturity. And how can I, and that's, I think, this is a preset to answer the question. The core of the question is, living in a world of, in this case, dishonesty, how can I be honest? So first is a choice. Second, I have to understand why my choices make a difference. So think about this. Why am I still sweating because I want the money, but oh my God, I shouldn't, but I want the money, but I shouldn't. Look at the turmoil. How can I get rid of the turmoil? I can get rid of the turmoil when dishonesty is no longer a possibility. So there is no more, possible two choices. Dishonesty is no longer a choice. I look at the pile of bills and I say, oh my God, I need to return this, or I need to get the person who owns this to come in here and pick it up. You see, dishonesty is no longer a possibility. It will take us time to get there. This is one example. Honesty, dishonesty. You can go, tolerance, intolerance, patience, impatience, all of those. Now, in order to get rid of this, I usually mention in my lectures, in my talks here in the program, it's a lot easier for us to understand things in a material world than things in the spiritual world because they are more abstract. So think about this. Consider the sun. The sun out there shining every morning. The sun is something that belongs to the physical world, our material life. We don't put our hands on the sun, of course, but it's something that we can easily relate to in the material realm. So it's something that belongs to the material life. We're going to go by analogy here. Then I'm going to ask you a question for you to reflect. When is it dark at the sun? When is it dark at the sun? Because out here, it's dark at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., depends. When is it dark in the sun? And the answer is, it's never dark in the sun, obviously. But then I have a question number 2 following your answer, that it's never dark in the sun. And my question number 2 is, why? Why is it never dark in the sun? The answer is very interesting. The answer is because the sun is the source of all light. All light, not some light, not a few rays of light. No, the sun is the source of all light. So, by using this analogy, when am I going to be in peace? When I am the source of all peace. Not when two guys sit down somewhere with suits and ties somewhere in the world signing pieces of paper. Because we have done this 10,000 times in history and it didn't do anything for us. So when am I going to be in peace? When I am the source of all peace. When am I going to be tolerant? When I am the source of all, A-L-L, all tolerance. When am I going to be patient? When I am the source of all patience. And so and so and so. And when am I going to be honest? When I am the source of all honesty. And when I become the source of all honesty, dishonesty is not possible at all. That's it. Dishonesty is out of question. It's out of the radar. You can't provoke me with anything that you can think of for me to be dishonest. It wouldn't happen. Because when I am the source of all honesty, that's it. Dishonesty lost its place. So we improve our moral standards by being the source of the virtues. By doing so, we improve the social markers of our society. And that makes us improve our moral standards regardless of what's around. You can still, a person, for example, who is the source of honesty, right, or the source of patience, you can place that person in the middle of a group of the most impatient people that you can think of. You wouldn't bother that person. That person would still be as patient as he was before being inserted into that context. You see, it's not the environment, it's not less violence out there that's going to make me less violent. It's not less dishonesty out there that's going to make me less dishonest. It doesn't come from outside. It's an inner job. I have to do this myself. I have to seek to be the source of the good things or the positive things. And as I get there, as I improve, the negative things outside are going to impact me less and less and less and less, to a point where they make no difference. You see, Jesus was here in the worst, if you think about the level of morality, okay, of the people at his time. He was dealing with the worst moral standards ever. Did he become a criminal? No. Did he consider being dishonest for 3 seconds? No. Did he said, well, everybody's aggressive, I need to be as aggressive as them? No. The environment he was in did not change him a bit. He changed the environment. That's improvement of moral standards. When we first put a goal to raise our standards, and we go through the process of raising our standards, we are opening up the possibility to raise the standards of everything and everybody around us. But it's a choice. And that's where, by the way, following the answer on the previous question, that's where Spiritism explains in details why we should do certain things, why we should not do certain other things. Spiritism teaches us to understand the difference between facts and perceptions. You see, I will perceive the world filtered and based on my moral standards. If I am a dishonest person, I look at everybody and everybody is dishonest because I don't see a single drop of honesty in anybody's life. If I am a violent person, everyone is violent because that's the lenses that I have in my eyes to the world. So improving my moral standards will cause myself to perceive the world differently. When we come into Spiritism, most of us, especially if you're coming from a different belief system, there's a point, a few months after you start going to a Spiritist center and participating in studies and lectures and so, there's going to be a point where, it sinks in. Not that you transform yourself in a Jesus-like figure. No, none of us. That's not going to happen in 5 minutes, in one day. But when it sinks in, we understand that we are being led now to a different direction. And if we follow that direction, certain things are going to have to happen. I'm going to stop going to the places that I usually go. I'm going to stop having the friends that I used to have, some of them at least. So things have to change. You see, I'm not changing the friends that I'm leaving behind. I'm not changing the places that I won't go to anymore. Nothing out there is changing. I can't change anyone. I can't change anything. But I can only change myself. I'm responsible for my moral standards, and only me. I'm responsible 100% for my moral standards. So, it's a long answer, right? But let's just summarize everything. The question was, how can we improve our moral standards if we live in a world of dishonesty, crime, violence, and so many other negative things? And the short answer, with all the explanation behind it, is I have to be the source of higher moral standards. I have to be the source of peace, honesty, tolerance, patience, fraternity, charity, all of those. I have to be the source. Well, thank you very much for participating in our program today, this Q&A program. We're going to do more of these Q&As as we go along. You have on the screen the email. You can send questions if you want. Questions, comments, suggestions, anything is valid. We are all learning here. Nobody's better than anybody else. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. right here on Kardec Radio. Spiritism, a closer look. Thanks so much. Be well.